The storm rolled over the city like a restless beast. Rain hammered the streets, drumming on rooftops, pouring down gutters, flooding sidewalks. Most people hurried by with umbrellas, ducking into taxis or running for shelter. But David didn't. He stood under the awning of the small diner where he worked, the warm smell of coffee and frying bacon spilling out behind him. He should have gone home already. Ethan, his 11-year-old son, was inside finishing his homework, waiting for him to lock up. But David's eyes had caught something across the street. A figure. Still. Silent. Soaked to the bone. A woman stood beneath a flickering street lamp, head bowed, rain running down her uniform. Not just any uniform, a military one. Her cap was clutched in her hands, water dripping from the brim. Her boots were caked in mud as though she had marched straight out of a battlefield into this storm. And her eyes looked hollow. The first step. David hesitated. Life had taught him not to get too involved with strangers. People carried their own battles, and often they didn't want rescuing. But something about her tugged at him. Maybe it was the way she shivered despite trying to stand tall. Maybe it was the way her shoulders sagged, like the weight of the world had pressed too hard for too long. So he crossed the street, umbrella in hand. "Ma'am?" His voice was soft, almost cautious. "You'll get sick out here." The woman looked up sharply, as if she had been jolted out of a trance. Her hand twitched toward her pocket like she was ready to defend herself, even here, in a safe city street. "I'm fine," she said flatly, her voice carrying the steel of command. David studied her for a moment. "You don't look fine. Come inside. Warm up. Just coffee, if nothing else." Her jaw tightened. Pride screamed at her to refuse. She had been Sergeant Maria Lopez of the U.S. Army, fearless, unbreakable. She didn't need saving. But tonight, she was just Maria. Tired. Hungry. Alone, 5 minutes, she muttered. David smiled, tilting the umbrella over her head. 5 minutes it is. The diner. The diner was mostly empty at this hour. Ethan sat at the counter, his pencil scratching across a notebook. He looked up as his dad walked in with the stranger. His eyes widened when he saw her uniform. "Dad," Ethan whispered, tugging on his sleeve. "Is she a soldier?" Maria gave a small nod, setting her cap down on the booth's table. "Was," she corrected. David ordered 2 coffees and a plate of fries. Maria wrapped her cold hands around the mug, the steam rising into her face. For the first time in days, she felt a sliver of warmth. "You just get back?" David asked, his tone casual but gentle. She hesitated. "A week ago. Doesn't feel like home?" The question landed deeper than he realized. Maria's throat tightened. She stared out the rain-streaked window. "No. It doesn't." David didn't press. He didn't ask for stories of combat or medals. He just sat there, sipping his coffee, giving her space. And somehow, that was more comforting than anything. Silent battles. Over the next few weeks, Maria kept coming back. Sometimes for food, sometimes just for company. David never made her feel like a burden. He'd slide a plate of pancakes toward her with a small smile. Ethan would ask her endless questions. Did you drive tanks? Did you jump out of planes? Did you ever meet Captain America? And for the first time, Maria laughed. But when she went home, the nights were brutal. Sleep rarely came. When it did, it brought flashes of explosions, screams, faces she couldn't save. She'd jolt awake drenched in sweat, her hands gripping the bedsheets like a rifle. She'd sit in silence until sunrise, haunted by guilt she couldn't shake. David had his own storms. The diner barely covered the bills. His wife, Sarah, had passed 5 years ago, leaving him to raise Ethan alone. He worked double shifts, often coming home so tired he'd collapse on the couch. Some days he wondered if Ethan resented him, if his son secretly wished he had a normal family. They were 2 broken souls. But somehow, when they were together, the weight didn't feel quite as crushing. The first wall. One evening, Maria didn't show up. David noticed. He tried to brush it off, telling himself maybe she was busy. But the next night, she didn't come either. Nor the one after that. Something gnawed at him. He remembered the way her hands trembled, the shadows in her eyes. He knew what it was like to sit in darkness too long. So, on the fourth night, he and Ethan knocked on her apartment door. At first, silence. Then, a hesitant shuffle inside. When the door cracked open, Maria's face appeared pale, exhausted, eyes red from crying. David held up a plate of food. "You missed dinner. We thought we'd bring it to you." Ethan grinned, holding out cookies wrapped in foil. "These are my grandma's recipe. Dad says they fix everything." For the first time in years, Maria's eyes filled with tears she couldn't stop. She opened the door wide. "Come in. Healing together." That night changed everything. Maria realized she didn't have to carry it all alone. She began letting David in piece by piece. She told him about her squad. About the friend she lost in an ambush. About how coming home felt wrong, like she had left a piece of herself behind. David shared too. He told her about Sarah, about the nights he thought he couldn't raise a child alone, about how Ethan was the reason he kept going. They found comfort in their shared scars. Neither judged the other. Neither tried to fix what was broken. They just understood the challenge. But healing was never simple. One afternoon, Maria walked Ethan home from school. They passed a group of boys who sneered at him. "Where's your mom, huh? Oh right, you don't have one." Ethan froze. His fists clenched, his eyes burning with tears. Maria's jaw tightened. She stepped forward, her voice sharp with authority. "Enough. You think it's funny to make fun of someone's loss? Do you know the kind of courage it takes to keep going when life rips your family apart? That boy is stronger than you'll ever be." The bullies fell silent, guilt washing over their faces before they scattered. Ethan stared up at her, eyes wide with admiration. "You sound just like Mom would have." Maria froze. Something in her chest cracked open. That night, when David thanked her, she shook her head. "You've been protecting me since the night we met. Tonight, I just returned the favor. A new kind of family." The months rolled on. Winter turned to spring. Maria became a fixture in their lives, not as a replacement for Sarah, but as someone new, someone who brought her own strength and love into their little home. David found himself smiling more, laughing more. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. Ethan thrived. His grades improved, his confidence grew. At school, he proudly told everyone his Aunt Maria had taught him how to stand tall, how to never let pain define him. And Maria, she began to sleep again. Not perfectly, not always, but the nightmares weren't as suffocating when she knew she had somewhere safe to land. For the first time in years, she felt like she belonged. The message. This isn't just a story about a soldier. Or a single dad. Or a boy learning to grow up without his mom. It's about what happens when kindness meets brokenness. When someone knocks on your door, not because they have to, but because they care. It's about how families aren't always made by blood, they're made by choice, by love, by showing up when it rains the hardest. And maybe that's the most powerful kind of family of all. Call to action. If this story touched your heart, let me know in the comments. Tell me. Have you ever had someone show up for you at the exact moment you needed it most? And if you believe kindness can change lives, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Be Kind Always, for more inspiring stories. Because sometimes, all it takes is one knock on the door to change everything.